very blessed that she is here in Vero, and we are very excited. So we are welcoming, we can't wait to have all of you in the community as our guests at the festival this coming weekend. I would like to introduce some really important members of my team who none of this would be possible without our volunteer team or without our partners here in the community, which the City Council and your staff have been a phenomenal partner. So thank you very much for everything that you've made possible. On my right is Marie Healy, who is our festival producer. Next to her is Quentin, who's one of our volunteers. Then there is Susan Horn, who is my co-founder and has been working with me to put the festival together for the last year and a half. I can't believe how long she's hung in there. I also want to introduce Joanne Montgomery, one of our stellar volunteers, and she's one of our wine captains, as well as Bob Stanley here in the back, who's also a wine captain. So for those of you who are planning on imbibing, these will be probably the two most important people for you to know. Next to them is Gwen Simmons, who's one of the greeter captains, and behind her is one of the other most important reasons that the festival exists, and that is Art Chaska. Art is the executive director of Suncoast Mental Health Center, for whom the festival benefits, and the center inspired our theme, A Life Worth Living. I also want to introduce, next to Art, is Mary Brown, who is a recent transplant to Vero. And I just want to say that that's been one of the really incredible things about the festival, is how many people who've joined the team who are new to Vero, so that they could meet new members of the community and make friends. And in fact, we have become a recruiting tool for several companies here in the area. And next to her is Elaine Goodall, who is our logistics captain. So she's one of the reasons, her and Marie, that everything will run so smoothly, because everybody says, how can you do this? Well, if you saw the sheets and the spreadsheets and the numbers and the sharpening of the pencil that the two of them do late into the night, then you'd know how we do that. So now I want to show you something really, really fun to give you a taste of the festival. We brought with us our festival commercial and a set of the trailers. So you'll be able to just get a sneak peek of what you can expect this weekend. And that commercial was produced by another very talented member of the Vero Beach community, Lane Solomon. And I'm sure those of you who are sitting in the audience are very happy to be able to enjoy the talents of the patisserie, because we, brought more of the cookies this time. So thank you so much for having us this morning. And we are, as I said, beyond excited to be able to create this incredible event for the city.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Teresa. Go ahead, Ms. Turner. Yes.
My pleasure to read this proclamation this morning. The inaugural Vero Beach Wine and Film Festival sets an outstanding example of innovation by being the first and only wine and film festival in the state of Florida. And the Vero Beach Wine and Film Festival specifically recognizes Vero Beach filmmakers and winemakers at this celebration of arts and culture, and supports the growth of our tourism economy and benefits local businesses by attracting visitors to the city of Vero Beach. The Life Worth Living theme of the Vero Beach Wine and Film Festival reflects the cherished values and lifestyle of the city of Vero Beach. And the Wine and Film Festival brings positive awareness to mental and emotional health and benefits Suncoast Mental Health Center. The Vero Beach Wine and Film Festival established the first ever festival partnership with the Sonoma International Film Festival, a 19-year festival contributing to the awareness of the city of Vero Beach as a top arts and lifestyle destination. Now, therefore, the city of Vero Beach does hereby recognize June 9th through 12th of 2016 as the Vero Beach Wine and Film Festival Week, and urge all citizens to attend and support this inaugural annual cinematic celebration in the city of Vero Beach.
Hey, come on.
We're going to have an incredible week ahead of us.
Look at me. One more time. There we go. Right there. Thank you.
We're going to have an incredible week.
Yes.
With all this team of enthusiasm, no question. Thank you so much.
We'll see you on the digital movies.
Good work. Thank you.
It'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great work. Sure
Thank
thing.
you.
Good to see you.
Great seeing you. Of course, we could have missed this. This is the event. This is it for Vero Beach. It's incredible. What an effort to put forward this deal.
Thanks for filling it. Got it. Thank you.
Teresa, you want to come up right here? We'll scrunch together here. Yeah.
Hey, put your shoe kind of in the middle. Hey, guys, ladies in the end. Oh, that's good. That's good. Hang on. I need you to move over this little bit.
Elaine.
I'm trying. Everybody shift over.
Elaine and Gwen come in the side.
Okay, good. Good.
Get underneath the.
Turn sideways and get in tight. You like each other.
One more time. Last one. I'll get these.
Susan's teeth are going to dry.
Thank you.
Just as a note, Mr. O'Connor, Jim, if at all possible, I mean, Jerusha, have you gotten in touch with Rob and Jim, make sure we got all of our ends together on making sure everything runs okay?
Mr. Mayor.
Sure. And they are staying so in touch.
Good.
I love it. It's like, yes. So I think we're all good.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
We look forward to a great event. Thank you.
Can't wait to see you guys there.
Mr. Mayor, I think virtually all the departments have been tied in with this project. The banner issue was one of those we were able to resolve. Fortunately for the city of Vero Beach, we have 3 major festivals coming up at the same time.
Yeah.
And we had to sort of juggle our dates as to when the banners would go up. And as I told our electric director today, even if the lights go out, the banner's got to go up. So that's just the way it is.
Hey, it's been declared the most beautiful banner ever. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we're going to hear from the Treasure Coast Pilot Club, and Miss Betsy Root is going to come and talk to us about sending some kids to camp.
Hi, I'm Betsy Root with the Treasure Coast Pilot Club, and what we decided to do this year, Pilot Club usually concentrates on Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, raising money for that, as well as children. We have a club where teenagers can become involved as well. Well, this year we decided to try doing something called Happy Dollars. So at each of our meetings, we say, does anyone have anything they would like to give $1 to that's happy, sad, whatever it might be. So it's been a really great way for all of us to, even though we've been together for quite a few years, to get to know each other. Well, this was extra money coming in, so we said, let's do something different with it. So the idea came up that there are summer camps here in town that a lot of children don't have the opportunity to go to because they can't afford to do that. So we've decided to go ahead and donate money to allow some children to go to camp this summer. So we're really looking forward to that. I was at camp. How many of you went to camp as kids? Yeah, any of you counselors? It was fun. It was a great time. So it will be nice to know that we'll be able to allow some children that normally wouldn't be able to go to camp to go to camp. So I would like to present this check for $761 to you, whoever, to be able to send children to camp.
Well, if I could have Mr. Slezak come up and accept the check, it'd be wonderful.
Okay.
The program. Rob Slezak, Recreation Director. We did receive a call from the Pilot Club and a couple other things about the Pilot Club. They've been tremendous partners with us, with the Recreation Department in the City of Vero Beach. They are sponsoring the kids for camp, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But also they've supported programs, special events for us, city programs and everything else, and I can tell you this group really cares about the community. And they've got a lot of great people on there with their group, and they've been around for a long time, and I know they're going to be around for a long time in the future, and I can't say enough thank yous to them. A little bit about the scholarship program. Before I was a director, Pat Callahan, who was the director of the Recreation Department, looked out for people who couldn't afford to come to camp. And I wanted to carry the ball a lot further along. So when I took over as director, I found that there were a lot of kids that were in need in our community. And I went out to the library. I remember going out to the library and looking up all the foundations in the city of Vero Beach. Surprised to find so many of them. And so many of them now are supporters of this program. To let you know, last year we had 42 kids come through this program, 42, which is a lot of children. And the situations that they encounter are anything from family members with cancer. I've had requests where aunts have called and said that father killed mother, father in jail, kids need camp. And we have been able to put together a nice program here where the kids get to come to camp, and this may be the most enjoyable thing for them. And without caring people like the Pilot Club and everybody else who does donate, this wouldn't happen. So this year I think we're up around $12,000 in foundation support, and with the Pilot Club I think we're up around $12,500 now, or $12,700. And I can't say enough thank yous to them and to everybody else who's done this for the children. Thank you.
That's great.
Great to hear. Wow.
We greatly appreciate the Pilot Club and their effort to send a lot of these deserving kids to camp.
Absolutely.
Betsy, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we're going to go have presentation items by the public. Ms. Phyllis Fry, you are up.
Good morning. For the public record, Phyllis Fry at 275 Date Palm Road, and Tammy is going to assist me in making sure I get these displays right for you.
The assistant here.
The assistant.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're going to choose a different seat, aren't you?
Yeah. But he'll know the routine.
Team effort here. Okay, I think you can read that fairly well. And I'm here to speak today. I want to first thank you for sponsoring the agenda item for the update on the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council and how it affects the future development of your community, including your private property rights and home rule of law. In this photo one, first I'll give you a little history. In Chapter 163 of the Florida statutes, it requires that the regional planning councils review local comprehensive plan amendments prior to their adoption and to provide comments on adverse effects on regional resources and facilities identified in the Strategic Regional Policy Plan. This review includes extra-jurisdictional impacts that would be inconsistent with the comprehensive plan of an affected local government within the region. I'll provide you with an example discussed at the recent May 20th Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council meeting that demonstrates how the decisions of an unelected council has the power to place matters of the region above local home rule of law and property rights. The example shown here is for a proposed comprehensive plan amendment by Palm Beach County. The amendment pertained to Indian Trails Groves, a privately owned 4,871.57 acre land tract located here west of Palm Beach. The amendment addressed the required change in future land use from rural to residential. Exhibit B shows the aerial view in what was once a large tract of citrus groves. So the amendment consisted of a long list that fulfilled all the county comprehensive land use and zoning requirements, and some of these included the creation of a mixed-use community to address regional land use imbalance and potential to reduce vehicle miles traveled using both single-family residential, commercial, and office space, mitigation for water resources and agriculture, 1,068 acres with plans for expansion, 64 acres as required for parks and recreation, perimeter trails, sidewalks, and roadway points of connectivity, pedestrian and bike pathways, civic sites for essential services, and workforce housing. Throughout the presentation, it was clearly evident that the developers were bending over backwards to include the necessary elements to receive approval from the Regional Planning Council. Palm Beach County concluded that the proposal was consistent with all statutory requirements, compatible with existing and surrounding uses, consistent with their comp plan, contained quantifiable public benefits, was not urban sprawl, and addressed all regional issues. The Indian Trails Groves Plan effectively addressed the roadway network issue by providing more lane and intersection capacity than what was expected under a long-range 3.5-D study. Even though the Indian Trail Grove project met all these requirements, the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council rejected the project. Despite the fact that the land was privately owned and its development was approved by the County of Palm Beach, the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council stated that the proposed amendment was inconsistent with several regional goals, strategies, and policies in the SRPP Section 186507. Regional Redevelopment Goal 5.1 prioritizes redevelopment, revitalization, and infill of existing neighborhoods and districts. Regional Strategy 5.1.1 identifies and improves distressed, underutilized neighborhoods of existing urban areas to discourage sprawl. The RPC stated that the Indian Trails Groves project did not further these regional priorities. According to Regional Public Facility Strategy 8.1.1, before opening up new developments, the county would be better served supporting redevelopment to prevent further decline of older, more urban areas. The ITG project did not further these regional policies, according to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. Regional transportation and energy policies under 7 and 9, not shown here, but available on the Treasure Coast Regional website under item 10, quote, encourage patterns of development and redevelopment that reduce dependency on the automobile and the use of fossil fuels. Maximization of public transportation alternatives, end quote. The Indian Trails Grove proposal, according to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, was inconsistent with these goals. Regional housing goals. Under Section 2, quote, encourages revitalization of existing neighborhoods that will not result in isolated patterns of development. This will encourage an ample mix of affordable housing, think HUD, in transportation corridors for those who can least afford it, end quote. In summary, what we have here is a privately owned local property that checked all the required boxes excuse me, for Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and nevertheless, the priorities of the region took precedence over private property projects as mandated by the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. Apologize for the poor quality of the print. The Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council prioritized the goals of regionalism under transit-oriented development. Consistent with this letter from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council's Executive Director, Michael Busha, to the Federal Railway Administration, stamped with their motto, regionalism, one neighborhood at a time. He stated, quote, All Aboard Florida is a project that will encourage compact mixed-use development that promotes high density and intensity of development as part of transit-oriented development. The Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council also lobbied in the state in support of 750, a transit-oriented development project which was rejected in 3 Treasure Coast counties, including the city of Vero Beach. There are currently 11 regional planning councils in Florida's 67 counties, staffed by unelected bureaucrats. They are, by Florida statute, required to place the priorities of the region above local priorities, as demonstrated in the Indian Trails Grove example. The RPCs force local municipalities to conform to the RPC's form-based development, including population density, increased building heights, low income, mixed use, upward sprawl, inside transit-oriented rail routes. This includes the requirements for the reduction in fossil fuel-driven automobiles and narrowed streets. They promulgate HUD's policy of domination over local municipalities. They are purveyors of grants that literally buy local authority. If you do conform, they'll secure grants for you, but only if you conform to their developmental requirements. If you do not conform, they'll withhold grants for infrastructure.
Gentlemen, I'm sorry. If you could just keep it down a little bit. I'm having trouble hearing both at the same time.
Thank you. At the March 19th Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council meeting, Indian River County's Commissioner Peter O'Brien noted at the Tallahassee, Florida Association of Counties Legislative Conference, quote, the most disturbing issue is a coordinated effort to remove home rule of authority from counties and cities. There are 21 bills floating around that have some form of preemption in them. He stated that other speakers at the meeting expressed the same concern that there is an orchestrated, coordinated effort to remove home rule rights, end quote. For 4 years, Governor Scott has defunded the regional planning councils, which has forced them to rely on another source of taxpayer money, grants, which in turn are used for gateway projects into a community, such as the endowments for the arts. And the taxpayers in our county are forced to pay over $50,000 per year to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. In conclusion, let's review the primary priorities of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council. Exclusion of development outside the urban boundary. Approval for redevelopment of existing urban areas only. Approval of development only inside the transit-oriented corridor. Mandates for mixed use, high density, low income housing. Reduction of automobile usage and enforcement of mass transit. These priorities are not optional. They will be enforced upon you if you choose to allow the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council to enter your community and, in small, incremental changes, re-engineer how and where you build and live under their transit-oriented agenda. Before the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council bureaucrats place regulations and restrictions on how you develop your city, before they start bypassing local planning and zoning laws that demand new ones, and introduce visioning overlays that control how and where you build and live, you need to decide if you're going to promote these progressive ideologies for special interest groups who pander to the bloated bureaucracies for grant money and expect the taxpayer to pay for their big government welfare projects, or are you going to stand up and vote no to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council proposal and instead support the values of Indian River County and home rule of law? And finally, the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council will tell you that if you like home rule of law, you can keep home rule of law. Just ask the would-be developers of Indian Trails Grove. We ask you to consider this, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there any council members that would like to pull an item for further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item 3C, please.
3C. Anybody else? If not, I'd entertain a motion for the three remaining items.
Public comment.
I'll go for approval.
Does anybody want to do public comment before we vote on this? If not, I still need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I assume there was no opposed. Okay. Ms. Parr, your item C.
But yes, item C, this is a time and materials contract, correct?
That is correct.
I am a bit perplexed that the recommended bidder has the highest hourly rates and equipment rates. Where's the normalization of the bids for this? Normally, you would prepare an in-house estimate of what the costs would be, and then you'd use the rates that the bidders give you to normalize across the bids. I can't understand this recommendation.
We did give an estimate. It's $396,320, and it is on the cover memo. But Ted, you
right.
That's our estimate. This is what the bidder gave us, because there's a wide range in those estimates. These bids were not normalized, but I can tell.
And that's what the bidder provided. So on the cover memo, it indicates it's $396,000.
Once again, that's what the bidder provided. What I'm asking you, okay, they can come in with a low amount of hours, even if their rates are the highest, but yet the project's going to take what it's going to take to get done. So normally under these circumstances, you would say, okay, it's going to have this many man hours, we need this much equipment, and I'm looking at these rates. The hourly rate for removal is $128. That's versus $75 for the other competitor, or $90. It's close to being twice the hourly rate. You look at the hourly rate to survey samples and identify lead paint. It's $235 versus $75 versus $90. I mean, the variation in hourly rates is tremendous. So.
And I understand your concern. As far as the lead paint, that we asked them to look at that, and there is no lead paint issues that we're aware of. So we weren't concerned with that when I made my recommendation.
If you'll notice, there was an estimate total to abate all asbestos. We took the lowest price, Cross Environmental, at $391. DPC General Contractors, they estimated $500,000, and Cliff Berry Incorporated estimated $915,909.
Once again, those are estimates. You're still going to pay time and materials, correct, Mr. O'Connor?
That is correct, but to take one that's estimating at 500,000 versus 400,000. I mean, in our opinion, that was the way to go. But.
And I will tell you that based off when they initially did the bid, we provided them a plan of all the asbestos that was in the plant. We have since removed some of that over the last couple of years, so I expect this actual number to be lower.
I'm certainly not comfortable with with this analysis. I think the bids should have been normalized using those rates with an in-house estimate of the hours. I can't approve this one.
Could you approve something with a not to exceed? I mean, we've got our 396. I mean, that kind of keeps it from getting kind of out of control.
If that's your wish, I can go back and do that.
But I wonder if the contractor's going to accept it not to exceed, because my feelings is here they've lowballed you, and it's. If you can get an agreement from them on a not to exceed, I'd go along with that. But I'd be surprised if they would agree to that.
Let's go ahead and try
I'll have to get with purchasing since it was bid out to make sure I'm going through the proper procedure if I ask for that.
Jim, is that going to cause an issue?
Pardon me?
Is that going to cause an issue if we just do the not to exceed 396?
No, that would be fine. I mean, the fact of the matter is, and I think as Ms. Turner points out, if we get in there and something else has to be done, now we could always bring in another contractor to do it, and if these contractors honored their lower rates. But this is our best estimate of what the cost would be, and to go and recommend somebody at $100,000 higher who gave us that as their estimate. And she may be right. There may be a low bid, but if the council says not to exceed number, then we will stop, and anything above that would have to come back to council for your review.
Does that work? Okay. Motion to approve not to exceed 396.
Okay.
I'll second that.
320.
I'm sorry?
396, 320.
Okay.
Which was the estimate.
All in favor say aye.
Well, you haven't had public comment, though.
Is there anybody that would like to have public comment on this before we go forward?
We voted and it's done.
Well, Mr. Mucher, my apologies.
Mark Mucher, 617 Indian Lilac Road. I agree with Pilar's concern because the hourly rate's twice as high. Their estimate assumes they can do it, 3 times as fast? And so the not to exceed is a good idea, but they'll probably be back. Is my concern. But I rose to ask a question, and this and the item before it are all coming out of the demolition fund, and I didn't study the CAFR or the budget this year, but I just wonder if somebody could refresh me as to the amount of the demolition fund and what kind of a dent this makes in it.
I don't have that total number, but we have this number pretty well covered in the process, and will probably be in the next fiscal year when some of the remaining invoices come through what they're doing. These obviously are 2 big projects, and then we had the oil tanks, cleaning of the oil tanks and the lines, which are just about under, but it's all within that budget number.
Okay. For our next meeting, Mr. O'Connor, could you bring us a total on the demolition fund and what we've expended to date? I agree with Mr. Mucher that we need to keep an eye on what
we can do that.
Thank you.
There again, I mean, I presume the project is going to go forward even if we have to amend the budget in order to cover a cost, if there is an amendment that's necessary. You don't want us to slow down the project.
No, I just think we need to see where the budget is.
Yeah.
And will all those 3 projects that you mentioned be done in this fiscal year?
Yes, we are hoping. What is it? 175 days for the cooling tower.
It goes into
75 days. So yes, the answer is we hope to get these through.
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor. This comment, and I'll bring it up under 11B1. But I do think a more orderly way to go at the decommissioning of the power plant is to consider during the budget session some sort of a write-off of the asset, and thereby establishing a fund from from cash reserves, but I will, at this point, table that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call the vote again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes for item 3C. We'll go on to public hearings, item 4A. Is that, I believe, Tim, I believe that's you, isn't it?
No, it's actually the police chief, but I can give you an overview.
I'll read the title first.
Okay.
An ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, amending the code of the City of Vero Beach, Chapter 74, Traffic and Vehicles, creating a new Article 5 related to pedestrian regulations, providing for conflict and severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date.
This ordinance is being developed in order to protect both the pedestrians and the motoring public. One of the issues that we have is, for example, pedestrians can sometimes cause a distraction to the drivers, but the other thing is pedestrians walking in front of the entrances and exits to businesses also create a hazard. So we are trying to do this in the name of public safety for both the pedestrians and the motoring public.
Thank you. Chief?
Well, good morning, and Mr. O'Connor basically just said it all. Thank you, sir. Good morning, Mayor, council members. We've, as a police agency and a public safety agency, we've been experiencing more and more individuals along our city rights-of-way and sidewalk areas throughout the city, distracting motorists, approaching motorists, soliciting motorists, and this will help us combat that where a vehicle may be coming in or out of a driveway at a business, and they're being approached, what have you, and hence being distracted by that individual. Intersections, those kind of things. So this will help us combat that once again.
It's very important that we note this is for pedestrian safety as it is for the motoring public safety. It's a combination of the two, and we're trying to make sure that we have the proper process in place in order to protect both classes.
Yeah, it's the whole idea is to have a free flow of pedestrian and vehicular traffic without distraction.
Okay. Wonderful. Do we have any people from the public that want to speak on this? Okay, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, Council. For the record, Ken Dang, 1846 21st Avenue. In the ordinance, will this also address, this happens at some of our major intersections, folks that are, needing help and whatnot, usually will sit on the curbs and their legs and feet are out in what they call the gutter as far as where the rain goes and all. And I notice vehicles when they're coming up, especially if the light, this is at an intersection where a light is, they'll swerve either to the left or the right to obviously avoid the pedestrian. And sometimes they're not thinking because they do it real quick because they don't want to hit anyone. And if there's another vehicle coming, that vehicle has to also turn out of the way. It's happened to me a number of times because I have a trailer on the truck. So does this address that? So if there is a call at some of these major intersections where you have someone just sitting there, but their legs are out kind of, in the way, obviously no one wants to hurt anybody. So that's my question.
I think the chief can address that, but again, it's for the pedestrian safety. We don't want them get hit putting their legs into the street, and it's also the distraction of the drivers. But, David.
Right, and as far as Section C, it shall be unlawful for any person to stand in or enter upon any right-of-way within the city, including any roadway, intersection, or driveway located therein for the purpose of distributing or to obtain to or obtaining from the occupant any vehicle of such location. So it refers to the intersections on a number of occasions.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I am Joe Conrado. I live at 1001 Admirals Walk, Vero Beach, and I operate a business in the city of Vero Beach. I wanted to come this morning to support this ordinance and personally thank you for all the work you did including the city manager and legal counsel to bring us an ordinance that protects everybody and it will give some businesses the relief that we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Falk, what's the date of our next meeting?
June 21st.
June 21st. Okay, so that would be the second reading of.
No, this is the final.
No, this is the final.
This is
final.
Yeah. Yes.
I have a question. Looking at section 74, 173B, would this impede business sign waivers, spinners on the corner? Would it impede political candidates or from their supporters from on the sides?
In theory, it could, but remember, there's a second part to it. Let me just scroll down here. It has to cause also causes the driver or the operator of the vehicle to stop, slow, or otherwise impede the movement of traffic. So it's a two-part. So obviously, the officer has to make that kind of determination at the time.
Mr. Mayor, may I comment on that?
Sure, certainly.
You know, I only know of 10 laws that came from above, the 10 Commandments, and any law has an area of judgment in it. And this one has an area of judgment. I can see myself standing in the corner of a bridge waving a sign and the chief to run for re-election and the chief shutting me down. That said, done. I mean, any law that you write has the possibility of something happening. I think we have to go with the good judgment of our police officers. You can't write a perfect ordinance, but what this ordinance does is, and I see it around town, you know, somebody comes out from the curb and wants to wash a car or has a Statue of Liberty or something like that, and it gives the police chief more judgmental power, or his officers. And I have faith in our police and in the police in this country in general, and I think you got to allow for that. You can't write something in concrete that covers everything. You really can't. Thank you for your
With any enforcement, there's discretion. And there's, of course, we always hope to apply common sense with that. So I agree with Councilmember Winger. Absolutely, you know, there's judgment, there's discretion, and there's common sense that applies to any case. And for the most part, we don't get complaints, for one, of individuals along the roadways running for office. For the most part. I'll just say that. But we do get complaints for people that are literally right along a driveway, standing there trying to approach somebody, trying to solicit somebody, and distracting that individual driving their vehicle. These are people outside of the vehicle. So again, discretion, common sense, that kind of thing. We apply that every day.
Well, I think the most part, we're just trying to provide the community and the police with some tools to kind of keep things on an even keel rather than getting too crazy. I know I've seen some people out there that, you know, usually it's not just the individual every once in a while that does it, but it's the repeat offenders that do it over and over and over.
Absolutely.
That, you know, you've got to be given some tools to make sure that doesn't become too big of a problem.
And it's about public safety, as we spoke about. You know, if you're off to the right of way and waving your sign like you're supposed to and not causing an issue, there's no problem there. But we want the free flow of traffic, again, whether it's pedestrian or vehicular.
Wonderful.
I concur
with that.
Mr. Mutcher?
Mark Mutcher again. A couple things. Dick, I didn't think you were going to run again. But I assume this is going to be
You'll be pleased, I'm sure, Mark.
Yeah. I assume this is going to be effective after the meeting, and what I rose to ask about was the enforcement, whether it was going to only be complaint-driven or whether it was going to be proactive, and, you know, if the chief has enough resources to be proactive. So I think people have interest in that kind of thing. It's kind of been reactive in the past, and it's also, I understand, been restricted by ACLU people and all those kind of things, and hopefully this will get around all that, Mr. Attorney. But I am interested. I'd like to hear that it's going to be proactive. In other words, if the police officer sees something like that, they don't wait for a complaint to come in, because in certain locations the complaints could come in every 5 minutes until somebody till an officer shows up and the problem's removed. Thank you.
That's right, and I agree with that, Mr. Moocher, and I think we all need to remember at the same time that this is with regard to safety, and so that's important that you be proactive.
We're reactive and we're proactive once again, and this we've never had on our books before, so we've never been able to be proactive in this regard. So now we are able to be proactive and will be, along with the complaints that we received to be reactive. Yes.
Okay. Is there any members of the public that would like to speak on this matter? Council, any final words?
Go ahead, Mrs. Turner.
I just like to say, I know we've had some serious issues, and particularly for many of our local businesses that have been harmed because of this type of activity. For me, the way this 74-123B paragraph is written, it's just a little too broad, and I can't accept that clause in here.
Okay. Mr. Winger?
No, I'm willing to make a motion to pass it as it is, if that's appropriate.
You have that right. Are you making the motion?
I make a motion.
I'll second it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I may make a comment, because I think it's very important, based on what Mark was saying there, proactive or reactive. This is similar to our noise ordinance. We were having some concerns voiced to us about noise, for example, down on the beach. And we went down, both the chief and I, as well as the officers in the area, and the music coming out of one stand bothered one person, but it attracted a whole lot of people. And so that's the judgment of the officer to try to reduce those issues. This same type of code will give that to try to reduce some of the issues that are taking place at intersections and also at our businesses. So it is a discretionary, and we have to rely on the police officers. If you tried to pass only ordinances that were just absolute, then I'm not sure we would have many of those coming forward.
Well, just keep in mind, though, we're trying to tread lightly here on the First Amendment. And quite frankly, to adopt something like that, you really need a compelling governmental interest. That interest we've tried to key in on is safety, both for pedestrians and the motoring public. So we have had to try to narrow it as much as we can, but yet have it broad enough to cover the activities that we feel are a dangerous situation.
Okay. Well, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, Ms. Falk, I'll ask you to call a roll.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
No.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes. We'll move on to item B, and I think, Tim, this is your issue this time, right?
4B, an ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, amending various provisions of Part 3 Land Development Regulations in the Code of the City of Vero Beach related to permanent uses in certain non-residential zoning districts, providing for codification, providing for conflict inseverability, providing for an effective date.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council.
Morning.
This is your second hearing on this item. As you recall, at the last hearing, we added chillers and boilers to Section 6410C4G. And I also noticed, almost had a fit out there in the audience, I was noticing we're adding a new paragraph. It's actually G, so I will change that. If you look on Section 6, it says F. It really meant G. I verified that, so we'll make a change there. So unless you have some questions of me, you may want to open this up to the hearing, public input.
Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and do that. Is there any individuals here that would like to speak on this matter? Okay, Council, any questions for presenter?
Move for approval with it amended as paragraph G.
I'll second.
Okay, if there's no more conversation, Ms. Vach, would you call the roll?
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Winger?
Yes.
Mrs. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Old?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes. Motion passes. Move on to resolutions. Ms. Falk, would you read these for us?
Resolutions, we have none. Under public notice items, the first is a resolution that the public hearing will be held on June 21st, 2016. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, repealing Resolution 2015-31, establishing prices and fees for Crestlawn Cemetery, establishing hours of operation, providing for conflict and severability, and providing for an effective date. B, this public hearing will be held on June 21st, 2016. An ordinance of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, amending Chapter 26, Cemetery of the Code of the City of Vero Beach, Florida, providing for conflict and severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date.
Okay, I believe you're still up with our
we'll
boards
move
and
on to City Clerk
commissions.
matters. We just have a couple of reappointments. On the Board of Building Appeals, Mr. Larry Passon and Mr. John Gioni's terms do expire on June 15th, 2016, and both members would like to be reappointed.
Are there any other applicants?
No, ma'am.
With that, I move for their reappointment.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Historic preservation.
Mrs. Anna Brady and Mrs. Deborah Daig would like to be reappointed on the Historic Preservation Commission, and their terms do expire on June 15, 2016. And we do not have any other applications for this commission, and we still do have 2 openings, alternate positions open.
We have a motion for a reappointment.
Move for approval.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And just one more reminder, we have rescheduled our dedication ceremony for the plaque for City Hall for next Wednesday, June 15th at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
June 15th. Mr. O'Connor.
First item I have is the site plan approval for the dog park. This has been something that we've been pushing for the last couple of years to try to get a paved entryway into the dog park because of the problems that we're having on the edge of the street where the traffic or the cars are going in and damaging the parkway there, which ultimately damages the edge of the street. This site plan is an approval to have that occur, plus landscaping that's going to take place in the swells that'll keep cars from driving up and on the edge of the street. Tim's here to sort of give the overview of.
Tammy, would you do me a favor and bring her up on the screen, please? Okay. Basically, before you this morning is that the dog park is required by our lease agreement with the city to get approval for any improvements on the site. This project has been approved to meet our under site planning process, is approved by the planning director. And basically, they're looking at a 2-phased approach. The first phase would be this proposed project, which includes the construction of 2 improved handicap parking spaces, a driveway, an entrance with pervious pavers, landscaping in the plaza with information kiosk. In addition, they intend to provide 2 rain gardens in the right-of-way, which will be installed and maintained by the dog park organization. Phase 2 of the project will involve finishing the remaining 22 spaces of the project, which include the parking spaces and layout and all required landscaping. As you recall, the applicants were required to provide 10 parking spaces in their original site plan on the south side of the dog park. However, with your all approval, the requirement to complete the parking improvements fell through, and there were funding constraints for that. The new parking location would address the problem of vehicles tearing up the sod on the east side from Indian River Drive East, and would be a better location to handle much of the crowd coming into the park. The applicant is pretty well certain that they can move forward on phase 2 of the project eventually. They have enough money to do this first phase. And so the staff has gone forward, and we've approved this subject to your approval for the improvements. Just as several outstanding conditions that need to be met, so you're aware of them. First, that the pervious paver system needs to be approved by the Public Works Department prior to installation. The applicant will must within 6 months of the effective date of this plan, that would be this date if you approve it today, to provide a major site plan to finish the project out. And as I pointed out before, the rain guard needs to be installed and maintained, and there's an agreement to do that. And mainly that the rain garden is important not only for stormwater functions and aesthetic, but also prevents, in this interim period, cars just going over the curb and into the parking and not using the driveway. So unless you have some questions of me, I don't know if there's an app. I don't know if there's a representative here at the dog park. So you're. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. If you need to talk, I don't know if you have any questions of them, or it's up to you all.
Well, this is an action item. Is there anybody here by the public that'd like to speak on this?
Mark Mucher again. When I was still on planning and zoning, we passed this site plan, and there was to be no parking on the east side. When it was called to the city's attention that there were signs that say no vehicles and everybody was parking on the grass on the east side, the response I got was, well, we'll take down the signs. And you've since seen all the grass destroyed. I looked this over. I didn't see where these 22 parking spaces were. I don't see a good timeline as to when that might be. And even though they put a driveway in, I don't see where they're not going to park on the grass. I don't see a place for them to park until, what is it? Is it phase 2 when they get the 22 parking spaces? Yeah, and of course, the same excuse about not having enough money to do it could still apply. So I don't know. I'd like you to think about and discuss and clarify those things before you give them a go-ahead to go any further. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning. Ron Rosenthal, 910 Jasmine Lane. I go past this area because I'm a member of the Vero Beach Yacht Club, so I'm up and down that street constantly. And I've had a couple of email communications with the dog park people. And my question was, until all this does get settled, why don't they use the parking lot in back where their main gate is, instead of continually digging this area up and just making it worse and worse? Because each time it rains, people try to avoid the main mud hole, so they start further and further and further up and down the street, and it just makes the matters worse. I'm not saying that you shouldn't approve what they'd like to do. That certainly is up to you. But I'm saying, in consideration of the rest of the residents and the people that go by this all the time, why don't we just stop the use of that right now until something gets settled and let them park in the back? There's a big parking lot back there. And I don't think it interferes with the boat parking or anything else. And on top of that, for the pedestrians that walk up and down that sidewalk, it's a situation that has arisen here with the dirt and the cars going over the sidewalk. It's not a legal way to get in and out of that, and it takes up the green space. And I think they've done a great job with the interior of the dog park, and it's nice to have that green space preserved, but they've not carried it out to the front, and that's where visitors to our city and visitors to the marina and our club and all, that's what they get to see. So I think part of the condition of approving this is to stop them from using it right now until something gets settled with exactly how this is going to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Laura Moss, Chairwoman of the Utilities Commission. I do agree with the gentleman who just spoke. I live in that area, and frankly, I was surprised to see the number of cars that are parked right on that street. in addition to tearing up the green area, I guess we're calling it, it's really become an eyesore. And in fact, I didn't realize that they were supposed to be using another parking lot. I did see the signs that were previously mentioned. Do not, no vehicle parking allowed, and I know that those signs have been removed. But I would urge you seriously to make sure that this is not going to continue to be an eyesore. I mean, however it's approached. I mean, I think it's, it's people want to walk their dogs. That's, no one's against dogs, but it has become an eyesore, and I think it probably is dangerous too on that road to have that many cars parked so close to the road, and it is quite a large number of cars. Thank you. Good morning again, Phyllis Fry. And I too live in that area, and I just wanted to back up what Ms. Moss has said about it being an eyesore. Unfortunately, it started out as a beautiful green area, and just allow me to back up, if I can, a few years to say thank you for your acceptance of the park. If you recall, we went through quite a long period of time for you all to agree, and it is such an asset to our community. So thank you once again. It's been a while, but I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you. So as far as the parking area goes, I wonder too if it's an impervious surface. The Stormwater Utilities Commission seems to have a lot of heartburn with this, and is there an alternative that's semi-pervious? No?
It's pervious.
It is pervious. Okay, great. I'm sorry, I misheard you. You're way ahead of me, so good. I'm glad that's the case, and I think it'll be more cost-effective and very nice. And if there's some landscaping that could help mitigate some of this harsh parking-defined area, that might be a consideration. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi again to Ken Daig, 1846 21st Avenue. Like to echo, thank you for your past decision to allow this to be a park like it is, keeping the open green space. I hope today that you can come up with a workable solution for the parking. The park, just a little reminder, is open to all. There's no charges, there's no membership fees. It's become very, very popular, with our folks that live, in the county, in the city, and even our folks that visit here. They love it. And also, bear in mind, you do have to protect the surrounding neighborhood. So hopefully you can reach a solution. I understand, what's happening over there with some of that green space. They do need a place to park. Have whatever you guys come up with this morning. If you can give direction on that, where they should park. And then the green space and going over the sidewalk and all that is a city sidewalk, and eventually I don't think it's really made for vehicles to keep going over it a lot. I know they're doing the best they can. Everybody loves the place, and I know you guys are pretty smart to come up with a solution this morning to help them out to keep this thing going. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak on this matter?
Mr. Mayor, you may want to have the dog park, if there's a dog park representative, I heard that there were, to give us the time frame, because we've been told to the administration this was something coming very quickly, that they think they have the fundraising done for this particular project, which addresses a lot of the issues that we've had here. If they put in the landscaping in the driveway, then that keeps the cars from parking in that area. But
Richard Kerwin, I'm the new acting president of the Board of Directors of the Vero Beach Dog Park. And, I agree wholeheartedly with the problems associated with the destruction of the property there, which is why we want to get the project going as soon as we possibly can to get that cleaned up. It bothers me just as much as it bothers the rest of the citizens of Vero Beach. But unfortunately, the most popular times, right now everything is slow, but the most popular times, of course, are the weekends. And if you go over to the boat launch area on the weekends, it would be impossible to accommodate the amount of volume that we would have for cars and people. There is no space. It would be the people would be parking along the street. So the option is on the weekends especially, they have to go park over there for the simple reason that there's no place else to go. The boats take up the whole thing. The boat trailers take up the whole thing. So we do have the money to start phase one. As soon as we're approved, it will start immediately. Jill Jones, who is the person who should be standing here, not me, she couldn't make it here today. She's involved in some kind of a construction project. But she's got everything in place, and as soon as it's approved, we should be starting probably within a couple of weeks. So appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, question, Mr. Kerwin, if you please.
Sure.
I know you don't have the money for phase two, and I'm in support of phase one. But any prognosis when you'll have money for the two circles on this graph?
We have the lovely lady over there who's trying to raise as much money as she possibly can. You know, we work on donations only. This is the dog park church is what this is. You know, if we don't get your donations, we don't exist. So the donations are coming in. Of course, this time of the year, donations slow down. But we have the Bark and Brew coming up again, and that did give us some hedge on the differences in money. And so, I mean, the only thing we can think of is that as it improves, people will be willing to dig into their pockets and help us more.
Does your board have a goal? I mean, you must have a plan, a long-range plan or whatever.
That would be Jill. Jill's unfortunately the construction person of the project. The goal, I mean, we hope to have the whole thing completed before the Bark and Brew, which is in November. That's what our goal is.
Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I think Mr. Moocher made a point. I believe I was on planning and zoning when all this was approved as well, and I think the question that I have is too late. You know, how did people start parking on the east side of the dog park when it was not supposed to be allowed? I also believe Mr. Kerwin's correct. There's, on the weekend, especially during season, not enough parking in the back, was at the southwest corner with all the boat traffic, and sometimes when not the Bethel Creek House, the River House is being used, there's no parking there. So moving forward, the question would be, for me, part of phase one, would phase one still allow, Mr. Rosenthal made a good point, would phase one still allow for cars to enter around the side, thereby continuing to tear up the green space? Because I think it's too late to question why do people park on the east side. Okay, they do, so now we need a solution to make it safe and aesthetically appealing. So would phase one keep cars? Can somebody answer that question from?
Well, that's the intent of the rainforest in that area, to do that. Whether somebody's not going to follow the rules, and part of it is the dog park people have a lease agreement to maintain that property. That is their leasehold, so they do bear some responsibilities. So my suggestion would be to get them to try to enforce some of this if we find some people that are getting around that. I know it's difficult. So.
But we're now going to be off season, so the volume of all traffic should be down. So can't you ask people to park in a different area for a while during the down season?
Oh, hey, you had full authority. This wasn't my recommendation to have parking during this thing. I mean, it's what happened. So, I mean, you clearly have whatever authority you want to do. If you want to say there'll be no parking over there until the new parking is put in, you certainly could do that. I don't know if they'd be happy with that, but I'm just saying that you have that full authority.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, what I think we should do, echoing what Mr. Daig said, is what I think we should do is approve this today with some sort of understanding that the dog park be back to us by Mr. Kerwin gave us a November date with a proposal in November. I mean, we have a lease, and they have to comply ultimately with it, but let's give it some force of pressure. That's my suggestion.
Well, I would completely agree with you on the force of pressure. I mean, it's, what I'm hearing from the local people is that, it does create a mess.
We do have a condition on that they have to submit a full application in 6 months from the effective date.
Okay, my concern is the construction when it starts. I mean, I don't want to.
Well, they would have 6 months to get it, after the permit. So that's true. You can set different time frames. I mean, you've got full authority to do it.
My question was, and maybe this is for either the city manager or Monty, is that can they park between the street and the sidewalk, and then the rest of it we can just cordon off? I mean, it needs some regenerative effects going on.
Well, I don't want to.
I know driving over the sidewalk busts up those sidewalks.
Yes, it does.
We're asking if you can park between the street and the sidewalk. I
That's
think
what they're
that's
doing
where
now.
the rainforest is going in, isn't it?
Yeah, the sidewalk.
Well, until they build it. I mean, I'd like to see that area kind of come back.
Well, I think the key is that if you put your time frame on it, if you say that you want the phase 1 under construction, because phase 1 includes that rainforest.
Okay.
And Monty Falls, Director of Public Works, when we constructed that sidewalk, our new standard is to build them 6 inches thick so we don't have breakage from smaller vehicles traveling across them. We don't want to encourage vehicles to transverse our sidewalks in locations they shouldn't, but this site plan as designed should force those vehicles into one crossing location. And if you wanted to restrict parking on either side of it, we could always have some no parking signs installed north and south of the entrance location on the north and south end of those rain gardens.
Except those no parking signs didn't work when the park started.
Well, if those no parking signs are if they're enforced and we let our police department know and people know they're not supposed to, and a phone call to the chief's office, they'll make a pretty good deterrent.
Enforcement usually does it. The problem that we had, we were sort of overwhelmed by demand. And at the time, the dog park, we were trying to get them started in order for their fundraisers, so they were sort of pushed, and we were sort of pushed to make accommodations. But if we want to do that and enforce the parking out of there, we can certainly do that. And enforcement definitely will take care of the issue, I believe.
Mr. Turner?
Can we backtrack a bit? Okay, when did we actually give this lease? What was the time frame? And didn't the lease require parking? How come, we're still how many years later? I know we've given some extensions, but certainly the original concept
You're exactly right. They're
that it was
required to
not-
have 10 parking spaces under our open recreation
And
area.
these still do not exist, correct?
Right.
Can we pass this with the understanding that pick a date, January 1st or any other date, that it be conditioned upon that being achieved, what Mrs. Turner says, the other 8 places or whatever they are? Is that possible?
You certainly could do that.
I mean, I think
it's up. Yeah, you can do that. Then the question is, well, I won't say anything.
My understanding was that the gentleman said 2 weeks that you might start construction.
Can you
my
do it
feeling,
sooner?
I'm 100% in agreement with the destruction of the grass area, and I agree with the gentleman that said that the people are going further and further down to come up, and it's annoying. I don't know how we can enforce that, but I also agree with the fact that if we did put some signs that would not allow them to come in over there, but I don't know how we enforce it, but if you guys can come up with some kind of a plan, we'll do our best. We have what they call dog park ambassadors. A lot of people are there to go over to tell the people. All you can do is just tell them, so you can't do that. But maybe if it was posted, no entrance in this area or something like
What if
that.
we just lock that gate so that nobody could go in through that entrance and they have to go around the other side?
Well, then we'd have a traffic problem because they're going to still.
Then maybe we'd get parking spaces done that were required in your
Right.
lease. I'm just saying, y'all have done a beautiful job. The dog park is wonderful. It's a great asset to the community. But you have a lease agreement
Right.
that the terms aren't being met. And every time we turn around, they're coming back and saying, no, we did this, that, and the other. And by not meeting the terms of that agreement, you are imposing a problem on all the neighbors. On all the areas of the city.
The original lease agreement, according to what Jim Wells has told me, the founder of the dog park, was 10 spaces over by where the boat dock is. And then that evolved out. Because first of all, there wouldn't hardly be 10 spaces available over there on the weekends for dog park people to park. So it evolved itself. I don't know how it did. I don't know what the works were. I don't know where that came from. But it evolved itself from 10 spaces over there to the other side. And we agreed to make more spaces.
Yeah, but it's not in your lease. You still have a lease agreement, and I realize it's a nonprofit, and you've got to comply with your lease agreement. As good citizens,
which we're trying to do. Which, believe me, it'll be underway. But the destruction of that grass down there, I think if there was something posted, I wouldn't have any problem with that at all, and we'll do as best that we possibly can, that rather than hire a security guard to stand out there, to enforce that.
Is this something where you could just put chain the gate and said closed for construction, and then once this project goes through, it's all back to normal?
We could, but we're going to blame you.
That's fine.
Yeah, and let's not misconstrue this. I don't think they're against the dog park at all.
No,
Right.
it's lovely. It's a great place.
No, it is.
I love my dogs, and I think you guys have done a great job. But Mrs. Turner is correct that there's been a lot of leeway given to the dog park in the past, and so here we are
probably
again.
during construction. I mean, they're going to start construction. That probably wouldn't be a bad idea to shut that down because there is going to be a lot of construction going on, and you really don't want people coming in and out of there.
Right.
I mean, so that I wouldn't have any problem with that. I mean, once they start construction, then we can just basically direct them to the other side. You have to go there until construction is completed. So I wouldn't have any problem with that at all. So that's not unreasonable. It probably would be a good idea, actually.
You're kind of a victim of your own success.
Exactly right.
But
exactly.
If you're okay with that, I mean, if you could just close the entrance down for construction.
Well, when the construction starts, we'll do that.
The problem is, I need to see some action that's actually going to start cleaning this area up.
Right. Well, like I say, as soon as you guys approve us, Jill's got everybody. She's already been doing subcontractors. I mean, she's got basically everything is in place. So she's ready to go.
If we approve this with the understanding that you're going to close that for construction, and
well, I think it would be necessary to close it for construction. I mean, because I'm not a construction guy. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be what's going to happen in there. I mean, but even closing it. I mean, I guess we could probably chain it, but chaining it off. I mean, they're going to still park there.
Well, the reason
I can say that right now.
I know. The reason I say that is that gives you a little pressure. You can't use that entrance until the construction of phase one is finished.
I mean, it's worth a try.
Okay.
But I can promise you there'll be still people parking there and then walking down to the other entrance. We'll see.
Yeah, okay. I know.
We can couple that possibly with some no parking signs as well.
I'll put we can put that as a condition of the site plan approval for that.
What's the condition?
Would be to lock the gate during the construction period, secure it. And if you want to add, the parking signs we've done by the city. Yeah.
I don't particularly want to add parking signs. I mean, this is
okay.
Let's be pragmatic here. Dog park's a success. It's a great addition. It has two sides to it. There's a parking problem in season, at least around the other side. This is a step in the right direction. I think you go forward with this, lock it when in construction, and we'll revisit it later on. But it makes no sense to tangle it all up. We're talking too much about it.
Mr. Mitchell?
Mark Mucher again. I don't know where to start. You don't want signs. You want to close it down. I've heard 2 weeks. I've heard ready to go after this meeting. I've heard November. I've heard January. This whole thing is just ridiculous. I agree with I think what you're saying, Jay, is they need to stop it now and get going. I'd also like to remind you all that they have spent tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars inside the park, but probably not a penny outside the park, and that's where all the problems are. If you don't let them park on the grass, if you let them park on the grass and lock that gate, they're just going to, as somebody said, walk around. They're there to walk dogs. It doesn't matter whether they're walking dogs outside the gate or inside the gate. The dogs get walked. But it just seems to me that you don't allow parking on the east side until this project's done. And if there's no place to park over by the boat ramp, they'll have to go home. They won't be able to use the park that day. It's not like closing the park down entirely, but as the gentleman said, they're going to have to do that when construction's underway anyway. But I just don't want to see people parking on that grass, from today on until the problem's fixed. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me just take one more minute of your time, just to answer his accusation of hundreds of thousands of dollars have been spent in the dog park. The money that's been sent, the way most of our donators donate is here's $50,000 for trees. That $50,000 has to go to trees. Here's $25,000 for fencing. That has to go to fencing. So it's not like people are just dumping money in us and we do whatever we want to do. There's specifically named things that have been done. So we're not spending our money. We're spending money that's given to us for a specific reason.
And certainly donating for parking is not a sexy or exciting thing.
That's a hard
However, that's the commitment that you have.
That's what we're working on.
Commitment.
Right now, phase one money is
for your existence. You have to comply with the lease.
We have phase one money we have, and we're on our way to phase two. So we're working on it.
And this is 2 years later, 3 years later? How long
I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been a long process. And I'm delighted with the success, once again, of what you've done. It's just that you need to get a serious plan to comply with
it. All depends on money. It's strictly a donation thing. That's the problem. I mean, if we could get a grant, we could get it done real quick. But that's not going to happen, I don't think. It has to be, as the money comes in, we do the improvements. And we're well on our way to. We got phase one done, and we're on our way to phase two.
My my thought on a motion is just to close that entrance for construction until the completion of phase one and approve this plan. Does that work for you guys?
That sounds good.
Okay. Does council have any objections or any other ideas?
Say close it also with posting no parking in the area.
I can live with that.
What are you proposing?
What we're proposing on doing is just closing that entrance down for construction until the completion of phase one, and then we'll go ahead and starting now, and then we'll approve the phase one design they have here.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. But what happens when it's complete?
Well, then the entrance opens up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the entrance opens up, but we still enforce it. These folks can't park outside of that designated area on the east side.
Well, I think there's going to be landscaping and stuff. It'll be. Should I?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. 1846 21st Avenue, name Ken Daig. Thank you for your help on this. As you all agree up there, this is a great asset for our community. It is a nonprofit. It is reaching many people. Many people are using it. But also, again, it falls on your shoulders. You're the ones with the wisdom. Is you also have to keep in mind, like you're doing, is the neighborhood, to protect the neighborhood. We have other nonprofits throughout the city that are using city land for very, very good causes. So I'm looking out in the future. If you all are here, another few years, where you're going to be facing some hard issues with some of your nonprofits to protect your city and your neighborhoods. So thank you for your help.
Is there any individual that like to make a comment on this?
Just for clarification, now are we going to post no parking signs up and down the street?
Yes.
I think we should. I mean,
I don't want to post no parking signs up and down the street.
Then you want to repair all that area that's damaged.
You know what? I love dogs more than grass. I'm sorry.
Well, now we're not the responsible party for repairing it. The dog park folks would be the responsible. I mean, it's covered under their lease.
Well, we can put no parking signs that are fairly tasteful, that aren't too.
Put a post and a sign that says no parking.
Well, I don't want to see them every 10 feet or something obnoxious.
Yeah, well, and I also don't think they have to be there forever. Phase two is completed. There's probably no need for them, but until that happens.
Well, actually, I think after phase one, because they're putting the landscaping in. Yeah. And the dog park people are responsible for maintenance of that. If their cars start driving into this park or into the landscaping, which I can't believe that would occur, but it could, then they have to repair that landscaping. So we have to go back. And that landscaping is pretty close to the edge of the street. There's no room to park a car between the edge of the street and the landscaping.
Okay, and to that point, who's responsible then moving forward for the area between Indian River Drive and the sidewalk, which has been dug up, and some areas of the sidewalk are completely exposed? In other words, I don't know that it's going to ever repair itself. I mean,
well, right now it's the city, but in fact, I was with Monty after this. We're probably going to need to do a license agreement with these folks to make them responsible for that area.
That's right.
But that is one of the stipulations in this phase one, is that they will operate and maintain that tropical garden or whatever we're calling the thing, but it's landscaping to me.
Mr. Mayor, you have two issues here, phase two and the no parking in phase one. And I would suggest that a good way to do it is, if you want no parking signs, make a motion on that first, and then we'll come back to phase one, because basically, I'm not for no parking signs, and if you all want to vote for it, go ahead and do it.
Well, what I'd like to do is combine it. I mean, the whole
I don't think
idea
it
is,
should be combined.
The whole idea
It's two different issues.
is to put pressure on them to complete the phase one.
Absolutely.
That's the whole purpose. But I'll go ahead and state the motion that we approve the plan with the stipulation that we close the gates until phase one is completed, with in addition putting parking signs until phase one is completed.
And Mr. Mayor, I assume that you're including also the recommendations, the findings and recommendations from planning that are here requiring the 6-month phase two plan, et cetera.
Stipulations.
Yeah.
Well, I've
But no surface water runoff, that the site will be graded and conform with our drainage, right-of-way permit will be secured, installation of the rain garden, a copy of the notice commitments provided to Public Works, et cetera.
That's part of the site plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do approve that with those conditions.
Thank you. With that, I second the motion.
Okay.
Mrs. Bach, would you read the motion, please?
The motion is to approve the plan with the stipulation to close the gates until phase one is completed, and this includes the findings and stipulations from the planning
It
department.
includes what?
The findings and stipulations from the planning department.
What about the signs?
The signs were in there as well.
Read it again.
Includes the findings and stipulations from the planning department, and the signs are included.
Included in what?
In the approval.
Put in the motion, put the signs with the gate. I mean, both the signs and the gate closing is conditional upon the approval of, or upon the completion of phase one. Try not to make this too complicated.
Mr. Mayor, for discussion, though, once phase one is completed, then the restriction on the signs is removed, the way it's worded now. Okay.
Correct.
I can live with that.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
I wonder if Mr. Councilman Old has any questions about the...
No, I'm all set. Thank you. Now I'm a little slow. But.
Well, I just wondered what your thoughts were on those signs.
Without any discussion or public comment, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion does pass.
Mr. Mayor, we will have the no parking signs put up in the next couple of days.
Okay. And my hope is at the dog park, you guys will start your phase one here very shortly. Okay. If you need help, please let us know. We'd like to see that done as soon as we can. We greatly appreciate your effort on this. All right.
Next item is the airport master plan, and I would like to have Eric and Barbara, the chairman of the airport commission, as well as representatives from Recondo, to come up and sort of give you an overview. As you know, this has been through several public hearings and public meetings, and we have had a lot of input into this planning process. I do want to give a lot of credit to Barbara. She has really challenged us and driven the commercialization activities and trying to make this an economic viable type of airport.
Tammy,
yes.
We need to get this one on.
Can you?
Because I'm not getting it either.
After 2.5 years of working toward the master plan, it's worth a couple of minutes to get the picture, placed up there.
Take a break while we're.
I was wondering, could we maybe a short recess?
That'd be good. It's about a 10-minute presentation. 15 minutes if you want to.
You want to wait till after?
Come back, watch the presentation.
Give us 5 minutes.
All right. Let's take a 5-minute break here real quick. Get everything set up.